Welcome to Heartspeak Podcast, episode 117, Astrological Adventures for 2021. Well, hello there. I hope you're enjoying your holidays, whatever's happening, and you've had a chance to share with family and friends and good food, because we've had this recent Cancer full moon, which has been very much about family, friends, hugs, being at home. We've had plenty of home time recently. And now we're moving into a very different phase. And this is really moving our energy from where we've been with Capricorn and earthiness to Aquarius and airiness. And before I go into this, I just want to remind you that on January the 14th, the podcast will be live. So if you are able to join me, I'd love that. It's at 11 a.m. Mountain Time. And we're going to both share, I will be sharing some insights, but I want to hear from you. I want to hear and answer any questions that you may have. But most importantly, I'm going to be creating breakout groups so you can meet with each other and share your insights, what's going on for you, because I see that that's an area that we've really been missing out on in 2020. So go to my website, go to my calendar, and you'll see the login details there. Now, let's move forward. And I am unashamedly going to look at my notes because so much is going on. And I really want to make sure that you can write down dates, look at what's happening. And what I can tell you is January 2021 is really busy. And then everything actually quietens out a little bit. So get ready, get your skates on, and really take notice of what I'm saying about January, because it's almost like setting the scene for the rest of the year. And nearly every day has something exciting and new for us to experience. So let's just look at 2021 and what it actually means. I always like to look at the numerology. And some of you may have actually listened to my podcast on numerology, looking at your own numbers. And it's always wise to say, what number am I moving into? What do I mean by that? Is if you look at the birth date, which is the month and the day, and take out the year, but just add 2021 to it, you come down to having a single figure. And that single figure teaches you about that year. Do go back to my podcast on numerology to learn more, and maybe I'll share more of that as we go through the year. But because the astrology is so busy, I want to make sure we have time for everything. But it is, if you take the 2 and the 2 and the 1, it's a 5-year. Last year, 2020 was a 4-year. So 2020 was a year of hard work, restrictions, 4s, structures, being bound, rigid, limitations. Maybe we should have known this. But 2021, 221, equals a 5-year. What's a 5-year? 5-year is a year of change, not huge change, but refinements, travel, expansion. Oh my goodness, wouldn't I love to do more traveling? So we have this energy that's happening for us all that is going to allow us to be more flexible, more change in our life. And I think that goes along with Saturn and Jupiter now in Aquarius. And we're also going to see that our eclipses are going to be in Gemini and Sagittarius. Gemini, as I know, is very much about being able to change. Sagittarius is restless. So just remind ourselves, generally, this is the 5-year is for all of us, that this is a year of change, refinement, travel, expansion, communication. These are all qualities that go along both with the 5 and what I'm going to be sharing with you about 2021. And this, of course, excites me, being the Gemini I am, that we're going to be learning and expanding and sharing in different ways. And we may all accept that perhaps this year there have been limitations on our sharing. There have been things that have been shared that maybe weren't taking us in a direction that was helpful. And I feel that this year is going to be a year where communication is going to become more clear, and we're going to demand that. And that's not going to come from other people. It's going to come from us following our own inner knowing. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about this, but this year is going to be a year where we will be tapping into our own higher mind. What is it we already know? And that's going to bring us back to ourselves, which is very much an Aquarian energy. We're not going to be looking for someone else to tell us what to do. That's Pisces. Aquarius says, hang on a minute, I'm willing to listen to my own inner conscience. I'm willing to be responsible for my actions, but also for what I want to bring forward as a visionary, as a pioneer. And every one of you that's listening is a visionary and a pioneer. But that higher mind is not an intellectual mind. It's an inner knowing. And so that inner knowing is going to be enhanced this year. It's really, the question is, what do I know to be true? And whether you write this, share it, write it in a journal, I want you to really be inspired to bring forth ideas that you've had, dreams you've had, that you've been sitting on, you've been waiting to do. Because this is the time to say, this is why I'm here on earth. I came here to plant my piece of jigsaw on the earth, bring heaven onto earth. And I'm going to talk a little later about how we're going to do that. But this higher mind is one that already knows where you're going. People ask me, what's my destiny? We could call it your blueprint. And if you get excited by a new idea, it's already happened on an energetic level. In other words, it's already being produced. All you have to now do it is to produce it on a physical level. Does that make sense? So that I would say this isn't about, oh, I've got some ideas, I'm going to do this. That's not inner knowing. It's like, wow, I'm going to do this because actually I know it's going to succeed. I know it's going to be there. And for some of you who might be saying, oh, I never have those sorts of knowingness. Well, you do. You've done a lot in your life where you didn't even question. You just went, I'm going to do that. And you did it and it worked. And you didn't think, wow, that was my higher mind directing me. Because when we know we're going to do something, we don't question. We don't allow our little mind to get in the way and start to tear it apart and say, well, maybe this is going to work or not, or we don't make excuses from our throat chakra. So I'm going to be focusing probably more during this next year about what does it mean to listen within. And that higher mind is not above our head. It's inside us. It's in our cells. It's in our DNA. Our DNA is actually the place of our inspiration. It ties in with our eggs as a woman, all those eggs full of new ideas waiting to be fertilized. So we have the ideas, we then have to fertilize them. We have to actually light a fire under them. And it ties into our heart. So our heart knows what is true. Our third eye, if you want to say, our higher mind knows what is true. So when we bring our heart and our higher mind together, and then we allow access through our body for that alchemical change that needs to take place, we see the changes. So what am I saying? We may get an idea, we tap into our heart, which says, yes, this feels true. This is a knowingness. We feel it in our body. And then we use everything we have in our body to bring that into being. And that's what I want to see happening in 2021. There's going to be a lot of thinking going on because it's Aquarius, which is an air sign. Let's think about this. Let's talk about it. Let's intellectualize about it. But that's not the same as knowing in the way of, I know it and it's already happening. So it's the embodiment of our ideas this year, next year, as we go into 2021. I'm doing this on the New Year's Eve. And I would be saying to all of us, make sure that whatever ideas you choose to follow, they are resonating with your inner knowing, your inner truth, your heart truth, your higher mind truth. Do not get swayed by false prophets, because there are a lot of false prophets out there, and the false prophets link to the old Piscean way of doing things. I'll lead you in a direction and you just follow. Don't ask questions. This is a year to ask questions. 2021 is a year to ask questions. And it isn't necessarily a question that has to be, how can I put it? It isn't a question that's reactive. It's, I want to understand this. Aquarius is all about understanding things. I want to understand this on a deeper level. Help me to understand it. And if the person who's putting over the ideas says to you, just follow me, don't ask questions, or you are a problem because you ask questions, I would suggest you don't go in that direction. Having my own moon in Aquarius, and some of you may well have a lot of planets in Aquarius or etc. Doesn't even matter if you don't, but that Aquarian way is, I'd rather follow my own inner knowing than do what everybody else is doing, because I need to be true to myself. In other words, Aquarian energy says, I'd rather be on my own. I need my alone time. I'd rather do things on my own than follow other people just to be part of a crowd. So this Aquarian energy that Jupiter and Saturn are now expressing are really not just calling on what's going on out in their world. It's about, how do I relate to what the world is doing? Does this make sense to me? Do I understand it? Not from my mental state, but from my inner knowing. Is this a place where I wish to go? And with so much Aquarian energy, I'm asking us all to just remember that it's time to take time on your own. With everybody now working from home and doing from home, it's really hard to find your own time. And Aquarian energy really needs alone time. So it might be that you're going to take more walks if you can, or just, go off on your own, maybe have a lovely hot bath if that's the only place you can find for yourself. I'm not necessarily saying meditate more. If meditation brings you into a place of stillness so you can hear your higher mind, great. But don't meditate out of your body, meditate into your body. Come into the body. So walking, as I say, bathing, even you might find that your intuition, your higher mind speaks to you while you're cooking or while you're doing something with your hands. I say that because a lot of what we're going to be doing this year, 2021, is embodying our truth, embodying our knowingness. So it's staying in the body and using actions of the body, like, as I say, maybe even washing up or cooking or pottery or gardening. The more we're in our body, the more we're going to use our body as the true wisdom of our actions. So what am I saying is, the body is not this static place where you live, nor is it some vehicle through which you pass through the world. It's actually the place of wisdom, the place of magic. I always say, think of how a few cells become a beautiful baby within the womb of a woman. It's a magical place. Our body is not the enemy. And I think over the last year, we've come to see our body as a failure. We've come to see our body letting us down. How could you get COVID? How could you let me get sick? And then we've seen the world or the earth as a dangerous place. Breathing the air, I might get sick, and the world, and I don't know where these viruses are coming from, but maybe the earth itself is poisoned. This is all ridiculous. So the energy has been with a tendency to keep us away from body wisdom, away from earth wisdom. And I see, as we move more into Uranus in Taurus, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about that, that we are being asked to come home to our body, come home to our earth, and not see it in this way of, oh, we've got to be guardians of our body and our earth, or we've got to discipline it. This is about, wow, look at the magic of our bodies. Look at the amazing potential of creativity that happens within our bodies, within the earth. And I really encourage you to see that we are nature. We are magical. Everything inside us works beautifully, and including our immune system. So it's a reconnecting time to these energies. And I'm going to be talking more about that in future podcasts, or you may like to go to my new 30-day course, which is called The Magic of Mother Nature on Insight Timer. But I really see that there has been a tendency by those who don't want us to connect to the wisdom, the magic of our bodies, and how they are not just here as a human body, but as an interdimensional body. So there's been a tendency by those naysayers who have been saying, stay away from your body doesn't know what it's doing, let us help you with this. And we were even learning that we shouldn't breathe fresh air, but we should just keep breathing the recycled air through a mask. This is all ridiculous. And you may have different opinions on this. I'm happy. But I ask you to listen to your body, not what someone else tells you. Listen to your earth, your nature. Listen to what's around you, the birds, the trees. This is the future. And we're going to be challenged through this as Saturn and Jupiter square Uranus in Taurus. And I'll explain that a little bit more now. Okay, so I hope you're getting excited by what's coming, because this is going to be a battle for the mind. This is a battle for whose consciousness are we following? Whose dreams are we following? Who's dreaming the dream, as they say in Inception? Whose dream are we actually following? And I say, follow your own dreams. Be that unique individual that you are, whether you have Aquarian energy or not. We talked about this last time. Just trust yourself. And if you're in doubt, trust your heart, but also call on the spirit world, whether you believe that's angels or guides or ETs. In other words, they're all around us. It doesn't matter what. And say, if I am not following true, if I'm not being true to my heart, if I'm not being true to my higher mind, make it really clear now. Shut the doors. Okay? And another way I always suggest is saying, if I ask this question through my intellect, what would it say? And you'll probably come out with some intellectual answer. And then if I trust, or I ask my emotions, you'll come out with some emotional. Am I acting from my emotions? Am I acting from my thinking, my beliefs? But when you listen to your body, the body will not lie, my friends. I've worked with it all these years. And if you ask your body, is this the path we want to take? Your body will react. It will get stressed. It will, maybe you'll get tension, or maybe you'll get palpitations. Listen to the body. The body is your friend. The body is the friend of the soul, not of the personality, not of the intellect. And your body will say, we're not doing anything else until you stop and listen to me. Yes? I'm firing on all cylinders today. So let's go a little deeper into some of the transits, what's really happening. So Jupiter, which is all about expansion, exaggeration, searching for the truth, exploration. Beautiful, is in Aquarius. So what would we see when it's in Aquarius? It's going to be expanding our minds, just what I've been speaking about, expanding our ways of communicating, expanding our ability to communicate with different dimensions, our desire to go out into space and find out whether or not there are other beings wanting to talk to us. All of that's part of Jupiter in Aquarius. It's also expanding technology. Aquarians are very connected to technology. And we're seeing that within the vaccines that are being produced. It's called biotechnology. So we're starting to see so much more about how we can change who we are, biology, through technology. Now, I don't see that we're going to be able to stop this, but we need to be really clear. Is this expansion of technology, biotechnology, something that's working for me, or only working for someone else who wants to control me? Again, all I can say is listen to yourself, listen to your heart, listen to your higher mind. There is biotechnology going on that is not bringing us freedom, which Jupiter asks for. It's bringing us restrictions. I am concerned by some of the things that are happening, even the PCR test, the testing for COVID, which we already know brings so many false positives, especially when you do too much cycling of the test sample. But I have to say, there is no logic to doing mass testing today, because if you're going to do testing, you have to do it tomorrow. The PCR test is not for testing whether or not you are infectious now. It only tells you about maybe a potential infection or an infection that may have been in the past. We have too many false positives. And it really concerns me that not only are we taking a sample from high up in the nose, and why not are we taking it from other places, such as sputum, which would also have the virus in it, but I worry about what are we putting in, not just what are we taking out when we do a sample. I'll leave you with those thoughts. So Jupiter in Aquarius is about expanding our exploration of the mind, consciousness, affecting how does the brain work? We see a lot of interest in neuroscience. How does the DNA work? Which is again just what DNA is actually the vital information that makes us who we are. And as we're watching that, as I have spoken before, we're seeing what we call junk DNA, 91% of our DNA, wakening up because of the cosmic energies that are influencing us at this time. What is that junk DNA? 50% of that comes from old viral infections. And we believe that those messages in those virus infections, those messages within that DNA, tell us about who we are as star beings, as interdimensional beings. So I believe that the cosmic wave that's come into this earth especially over the last few months, but certainly over the last years, and will continue, are wakening us up. It's like we're being given this, wow, I forgot that's who I was. So it's not about learning something new, it's about remembering, reconnecting. And I believe there is biotechnology happening that's trying to keep us asleep, or to send that part of us asleep, putting in a new message that will distort our memory. So I know I'm being a little fired up about this, but I'm asking, I can't say something is bad because I think there's both good and bad in everything. But I only can say to us all, listen to your own inner message. Listen inside, know what's true, because Jupiter's given us that chance to do that, Jupiter in Aquarius. Now, Jupiter in Aquarius will stay there until May the 13th, and then it goes into Pisces. So Jupiter in Pisces is, wow, this is even more expansive. But Pisces is about unlimitedness, unlimited abilities for creativity. So May onwards until July 28th, we're going to have this real expansion of thinking, of ideas, but it's going to be beyond ideas. It's just going to be, I think we're going to see far more about holograms and virtual reality and games, video games. And on top of that, we're going to see far more mania, bipolar, schizophrenia. This is not a time to take drugs, my friends, because it's just going to be expanded out of our awareness. But I think at the same time, we will see far more exploration of plant medicines, things like peyote and ayahuasca. I think there's going to be far more information about LSD and how we can use this to change the mind. But I would again say, I'm not trying to be a cautionary all the way, but not everybody can take the same level of plant medicine. Not everybody can stay within their bodies when they take such a thing. So since Jupiter will come back into Aquarius for the rest of the year until the end of December, we'll be back into exploration of the mind. But next year, Jupiter will be in Pisces again. And we're going to see much more expansion of what people will call consciousness. Where can I escape from my consciousness now into a different consciousness? And what I want to say is that any exploration of consciousness is only for us to know who we are and once again embody who we are down here on earth. So I just want everybody to recognize, please consciousness needs to be funneled through our body, and funnel is probably a wrong word, but embodied and expressed through the body into the earth, rather than escapism. Because that I'm concerned with Jupiter in Pisces that's going to happen for the middle of this year, this 2021 year, that will actually cause us to get more disturbed. We have so many now places where cannabis and other drugs are readily available, which sounds wonderful. It's like, yes, freedom, but it may also be escapism, or it may be a delusional state. So during the middle of this year, May till August, to the end of July, be really careful about what you may become addicted to, or what may not allow you to stay in your bodies. There you go, giving you lots of joy there. Now, Saturn stays in Aquarius until March 2023. And interesting, that's the time when Pluto enters Aquarius for the first time in 250 years. Saturn in Aquarius, following similar ways as Jupiter. Saturn in Aquarius. Saturn is bringing a grounded approach to consciousness. So it's going to have lots of studies and foundations, and I think we're going to see some fascinating ideas brought forward about who are we. Aquarius is always looking at the bigger picture. How do we synthesize information? Where is this information coming from? And Saturn with Jupiter is kind of grounding some of that mania, some of the exaggeration that can happen through Jupiter alone. So it's going to be, okay, yes, that might be a great idea, but how are we going to do it? You know, good old Saturn is always like, can we come down to earth and actually see how we're going to work with these things? I think Saturn in Aquarius is going to allow us all to learn. Saturn is not only a restrictor, it's also how we're learning. And Saturn was originally the ruler of Aquarius, now it's Uranus. So Saturn was the old ruler, and maybe we're going to go back to understanding Saturn in a different way. Saturn has these beautiful rings around it. We're starting to discover what those rings were about. And it's interesting that actually Saturn's rings are starting to disintegrate. So it's almost like Saturn is changing. And Saturn, to me, is about really bringing to ourselves the foundations of our existence. So it may well be that Saturn in Aquarius means that we get more mystery schools being created, or something about a foundation. What is the foundation of my own higher mind? So it's allowing us to say, okay, I've got all these great ideas. What do I need to build? That's what I'm looking at. What do I need to build to be able to bring those ideas here onto Earth? What do I need to focus on? Saturn in Aquarius is always saying to us all, what am I focusing on? Am I focusing on ideas that will never come to being? Or what projects are actually not allowing me to be this unique individual that I am? So when we look at that, I would be saying to us all, remember, like as I said last time, start with the idea that we are divine light. And if you want to say, I am divine consciousness, then you're saying, how do I bring that consciousness here on Earth? And clearly we say, what is stopping my light shining fully on this Earth? Or what is stopping me expressing my light fully on this Earth? Which makes it easier, rather than saying, oh, I'm heading towards a light and I've no idea how I'm going to get there. Start with the principle, again, foundation of, okay, knowing I am divine light that wants to express itself here on Earth, shine a light on all those things that are stopping me getting there, so that I can, as I said last time, forgive them, forget them, release them, change them, anything, clear those out. So it's especially our beliefs. So Saturn in Aquarius is allowing us to shine a light on those things that no longer serve us, no longer allow us to be the unique individual. Okay, so now let's move on to our next piece. Uranus in Taurus. Uranus went into Taurus back in 2018 and will be there to 2025. Uranus is the planet of sudden change, revolution, upset. And I did think that when Uranus went into Taurus originally, we would see some more upsets within the Earth, earthquakes, volcanoes. Because when Uranus went into the fire sign, in 2011, we saw Fukushima, we saw the tsunami causing the release of this fire, the nuclear energy, so release of energy. And then when it went into water sign back in 2004 in Pisces, we saw the tsunami in the Far East. So what I was thinking that in 2018 we might have seen more disturbance. We haven't necessarily seen that, but I'm suspicious that things may be changing, my friends. And we are seeing more volcanoes, and we are seeing more earthquakes. And not that I want these, but Uranus is about disturbing the land, upsetting things. And for those who are interested, you may want to look to what went on about 12,800 years ago and then 24,000 years ago, because there's more and more information coming in that every 12, 13,000 years, there is a major upset to the planet. And they've often associated with ice ages, sudden ice ages. And the reason for that happening is maybe a meteor shower, a meteor hitting the Earth. So I'm not wanting you to panic on this, but when people, and we're going to hear more and more about this, talk about climate change, it's all about human action, about your carbon emissions. Hey, I'm okay with some of that, not all of it. I think we need to understand ourselves as cosmic beings, galactic beings, and recognizing there are more things in heaven and earth than our own actions. It's in some ways our arrogance to think it's all about us. We know that this magnetic shift may take place. That's another thought, that we already know the magnetic field of the earth is very weak. We know the sun has been quiet and now is waking up a little bit more. And we also know that maybe there's been a galactic burp, as I talk about it, that's been coming from the galaxy since 2012 that may reach us. But what I want you to understand is it's not about going into panic mode or starting to store up canned foods. But I want us to understand that Uranus in Taurus is saying we need to look at how do we make ourselves secure in this moment? How do we look at what we are in this moment? How do we have a better relationship with nature? Because when things do happen, and I remember that going back to the tsunami of 2004, people were literally having to make choices. What would they hold on to? What was valuable? What possessions do you believe that you need to hold on to that will give you security? And of course, what many would say, it wasn't things, it was people, it was love. So Uranus in Taurus is really asking us to look at our possessions, what possesses us, what possessions are really vital to us. And I feel that this is going to be enhanced. We're going to see, Uranus in Taurus is allowing us to see that having a body is important, having a job. And if you know anything about the Great Reset that is happening in January 2021, the Economic Forum is making choices that by 2030, they will have changed the face of who and what we are. They see that, we can be given money rather than working, and then we will just rent everything. We won't need to own anything, taking away our possession. You won't need to have a house, you just rent space. You won't need to eat meat because we're going to make food that will give you some proteins that make it, so you won't be connecting to the earth at all. And I think this Great Reset that's called Human 2.0 or the Fourth Industrial Revolution, it's already coming. AI taking over many jobs. And it brings me back to saying, what possessions bring me security? And my possessions are my creativity, my curiosity, my compassion, my connection to the land. I believe that there is a thinking by a few people who want to disconnect us from what it is that brings us true security. I hope this makes sense. This isn't about whether or not. The true security comes from pleasure, from enjoyment, through creativity. These are the things that make me feel secure. When you take away my job, you take away my money, you take away food, And that food is not just about me eating, it's about my connection to the earth. So I see Uranus in Taurus bringing us closer to that connection to the earth, understanding our role, as I say, as nature. I'll talk more about that at another time. Understanding our essence of the fact that we are the earth, and that food that has been processed or artificially made doesn't have a life force in it. So Uranus in Taurus, and I think that any disaster that happens actually brings us closer to what matters to us. Matter, Taurus. So I'm really encouraging you to connect to more Taurian things. And they are music, dance, food, the land, nature, smells, taste, touch. And you can see that over the last year, 2020, we've actually been disconnected from those things. Don't touch someone. People are losing their sense of smell. They're losing their sense of touch, sense of taste. Isn't that interesting that this virus is associated with lack of being able to breathe, to move, to connect? So I want us all to go in the opposite direction, my friends, and make this a priority for 2021. In the sky as well, we have Black Moon Lilith. Lilith she's going to be in Taurus. Again, she's connecting to this earth. She's saying, come into earth. Let's transform the earth, not in the way of GMO, but really when we connect to the earth, we literally are empowered by her. That's what I see Black Moon Lilith doing. It's the empowerment through the dark and dragon energy that I've often spoken about, that when we tap into the earth, we actually tap into this eternal dragon energy that's there for us. So I think that we are being asked to come home to the earth. And Black Moon Lilith is actually one of the crones, the dark goddesses, who is saying, no, I will not let you disconnect from the earth. I will not let you go there. Even if I have to create chaos to create transformation, that will happen. Remember, these dark goddesses say, I love you so much, I will not let you be less than you are. That's why I'm breaking down these old structures. So I'm calling on Lilith. Again, this is a virtual point in the sky, but I'm calling on Lilith to say, let me not go into a place where I've lost my true essence of humanity, my true essence of connection, because this Aquarian energy is very much about creating community, not creating centralized governors or one person telling us what to do. This is about Lilith coming through and saying, you will connect to each other, you will work together, you will work for the food that your community needs, the education your community needs. I will make sure that you have to do that. Even if it isolates you from other people, we will come into a more community-centered, humanitarian way of living. We need to use that Aquarian energy to understand what's going on around the world and not allow anybody to stop that communication. And this takes me on to the eclipses, because the North and South Node, which are the virtual points that define our eclipses, are in Gemini and Sagittarius. Gemini about communication, Sagittarius about truth. This next year is going to have eclipses in Gemini and Sagittarius. The truth will come through. We need to demand the truth. And we need to not listen to if the truth is only meeting one person's needs or another person's needs, we're back to false prophets. We need to know that truth because it resonates with our hearts. And we need to demand answers and not be fobbed off that if I ask for answers, then I'm a bad person. No, every one of us needs to be seeing, and the truth needs to be visible to us all. And I'm hoping that with these eclipses, more things which are being done under the surface that are not in the light will be brought into the light with truth. Okay, I'm moving on to some dates. I know I was going to actually give you the dates first and then go into all of that, but here's the dates. So Saturn is squaring Uranus, February 17th, June 14th, December 24th. You will feel the impact of this 2 weeks before, And the middle date, that June 14th, will be the most important date. It's the most powerful. What does this mean? Saturn in Aquarius, Uranus in Taurus. Saturn is more of an earthy energy. Taurus is more of an earthy energy, but Aquarius is more airy. Uranus rules Aquarius. So it's kind of a contradiction. Saturn in Aquarius is like, let's move forward. And then Uranus in Taurus is actually, well, let's be more earthy. But I think the two can come together beautifully. But when they square each other, it's good, because it's saying, let's not limit ourselves by anybody else's thinking. Saturn and Aquarius can actually be limited thinking if we're not careful. But let's move forward in a really positive way to expand our consciousness, to be inclusive of everybody's consciousness. And we're going to do that by being more Uranus and Taurus, which is really feeling how this works in our body. You can see what I've been going along with. And I'm really understanding how this influences our own inner nature, our own inner security. So you're going to see there's going to be revolution, there's going to be unrest, there's going to be a demand for change. And I want all of us to say that I'm not going to go along with anybody else's plans if they're not true to me anymore. But we've also got to be clear that just going off at a whim and saying, I'm just going to be a revolutionary, could just be exaggerating your energy and just losing your power. So it's got to take that Saturn energy of, okay, we're going to do this in this way to bring about change in a way that's going to be sustainable. So sustainable change. We're going to see a lot about, of course, sustainable fuels, but there's a lot of ways that we're creating these biofuels, etc., that are not sustainable. They're using up more resources than they ever needed. Okay, you can hear my fire on this. So I'm trying to say that this is a time for us to be clear in our thinking, long-term thinking, not short-term, and truly ask the questions. Does this bring us all, not just you and me, but all of us, to a more abundant and sustainable place in our lives? That's what I want. Jupiter will square Uranus. So now I'm getting into some of the squares that are coming up. Maybe I just start with Jupiter is semi-square Neptune, January the 4th. Full speed ahead, but careful of false prophets, false hopes. Then we've got on Uranus goes direct on January 14th. Uranus, I've been talking about, is bringing new ideas, but also about change. So you're going to see Uranus is going to be saying is, okay, we need to make some change. You're going to see action. And this is really the time we've all been waiting for. So for January the 14th, maybe that was the date why I picked the date for my live podcast. It's going to be action. Wake up, come together. This is really exciting. January the 17th, Jupiter squares Uranus. This is when we need to just be careful not to go off at a whim, because Jupiter is like, yeah, let's go and do this. And so we could see people taking change into their own hands, and that could then cause upset. So we have to, be aware of, is this a long-term solution? That's maybe my best suggestion. Not to let Jupiter get out of control, but also not to hold back. Then we have January 20th. Saturn is semi-square Neptune. Again, Saturn, Neptune is be aware of false prophets, be aware of what's going on. People are going to step up and say, we are united, we're all one, we're building things, new things, and be careful. Because there's a sense of Piscean energy in Neptune, because Neptune is presently in Pisces, which is like, we're all doing this. This is just the one mind. We all want this. Well, we're not Piscean beings now, my friends, even though we're not quite in the age of Aquarius. It's saying, well, that's your mindset, but is it working for me? And Neptune in Pisces is so much about emotionality, whipping us all up into this one happy state or this one fearful state. So be aware, Aquarius is not emotional. So where there's a lot of emotion involved, just use a little of your Aquarian energy and say, okay, if I'm stepping beyond the beyond the emotions and carrying the emotions, what do I really believe? What's really going on? January 23rd, Mars in Taurus square Jupiter. Woo! So this is going to be a time where it's going to be fraught with sudden, unexpected change. Whoopee! Dangerous situations can occur. Just be careful, drive carefully. I mean, there's just going to be so much disturbance. And any of us who live in the US know these are very important dates around January the 20th. So just recognize that so much is going to happen. And I can only just say, be cautious even in your own awareness, but don't stop moving forward. I mean, it's that counterbalance. January the 26th, Neptune square the true North Node. North Node is in Gemini. Neptune squaring Gemini is like, again, let's have the truth. Let's communicate. Don't let someone limit the communications that occur. I can see this really bringing out more telepathy, true communication, people making choices about how we communicate as a community that won't limit people's choices. Because Aquarius is very much about everybody having a voice, everybody having a consciousness. So we need to listen to everybody. It doesn't mean we take one person's point of view, nor do we put down anybody who's different. We need to learn to understand and communicate clearly. This is all going to be coming up throughout 2021. Mercury will go retrograde in Aquarius, whoopee, till the middle of February on January 30th. All of these plans will be put on hold, but again, there will be this part of us that needs to go deeper. What's being said? What is true communication? And then February 26th, Jupiter will trine North Node. Yay! And we all move forward again. And then April the 9th, Saturn trines the North Node. So please, here's the themes. And I know I've spoken a lot today, but it's so much to get through. We're going to be expanding our understanding. Understanding is a quality theme of Aquarius. We need to understand who we are, how we connect to the star people, how we listen to our body, all about communication, understanding. We need to communicate with ourselves. We need to be responsible for what goes on inside us. In other words, we need to respond to our higher mind, and we need to be accountable for what happens. We can't keep looking for someone else to blame. So being accountable is really about expressing ourselves fully now. We need to listen to each other. We need to create community circles, more circles and ways of listening, and not just one mindset. Everybody stepping forward, everybody being accountable, everybody being conscious, as I say, listening to your inner self, your inner knowing. All right. Second one, we need to remember that this connection to the higher mind is going to bring in a lot of information from many different levels. We need to be careful not to get lost in the astral world. The astral world is the emotional world, the psychic world. So we have to question, is this emotionality and our reactions to our emotions actually bound into an inner knowing or just a reaction to emotion? There's a lot coming in, and we had to take ownership, if I may say, as I've spoken about before, of our astral projections, things we don't like about ourselves that we project onto others. We need to own who we are. We also need to not get lost in the mental body. We could say the fourth dimension is the astral body, the fifth is the mental body. I love the idea of moving beyond our emotions, but we need to be careful of spiritual intellectualization, where we talk about spiritual matters, but we don't actually move it. So just being careful of the belief systems, following someone else's rules. This is the way we have to do things. Again, listening within ourselves. Is this true to me? Does this resonate with my soul? If it doesn't, we use our intuition to say, please be clear with everything that resonates with my soul. Let it be in my life now. Everything else can leave. What else are we doing? We are actually listening to our bodies. Please treat our bodies with great respect. Not judge them, not discipline them. Our bodies are our friend, as I keep saying. We're going to understand so much more about our body in the future, especially our DNA and how it is the heart and the soul of our beingness, and how it isn't the failure. It's about what are we being informed by. Uranus, as I say, Lilith, Mars, Uranus, and Lilith are all going to be in Taurus over the next few months. This is going to be almost a battle for the body. Who owns our body? Who owns the earth? So this idea of, well, we're going to limit people's access to the carbon, we're going to limit access to air. All of this is going to be Uranus in Taurus, Mars in Taurus, Lilith in Taurus. So all we're going to be saying is we need to come home to the earth in a big way. We need to understand this dragon energy within the earth. We need to understand the eternal energy. We need to understand the purpose of crystals. We're going to be inviting ourselves to delve more deeply in what does it mean to be nature. And finally, I think we're going to see more technologies, new technologies, space travel, as I mentioned before, artificial intelligence. And we are going to be in contact with the ETs. The ETs, which many of us already have that star energy inside us. We're going to understand our own star nature and be able to communicate more freely with other star beings, with ETs. And education is going to change. We're going to be looking at what do we need to teach anybody, because anything you teach today is going to be out of date. Education, the way we educate. And education is not, of course, about subjects. It's about how we learn. And we learn not just by looking at a computer. Many of us learn by listening to stories. Many of us learn by writing down things. Many of us learn by smells, by touch. Our children need to be given the opportunity to be educated not in front of a computer, but in the way they communicate with each other, they connect, the way we touch. Our whole education system is going to change, and I'm excited by that. So this is my rundown, my friends, of what we're moving through, and I hope it excites you as much as it excites me. I will, of course, be following up on a lot of this as we go through, but you hear my most important thing. This is a time for us to bring heaven onto earth, to dream your dream into existence, to listen to your higher mind, your inner self, whatever words you want. That higher mind is not outside you, it's inside you. That inner knowing, that inner wisdom of our bodies, that inner wisdom of the earth. And most of all, remembering that we are moving towards a state of telepathy. Telepathy is a time where we have no fear. While we have secrets, while our divine light is shaded by our secrets, our beliefs, our fears of shame, we cannot communicate as we are meant to do as spiritual human beings. And when we clear our own, the more we clear our own divine light to shine, the more we clear our own fear. Fear is just separation. The more we will connect to all these multidimensional beings that exist in our world now. And that's the future that we're heading towards, my friends. So lots of love, many blessings for a wonderful 2021. I am so pleased you're with me, and we will speak again and be together again next week. Bye-bye now.
Thanks for listening to the HeartSpeak podcast with Dr. Christine Page. Please check out all HeartSpeak episodes in the podcast archive section on www.christinepage.com. HeartSpeak is also available on iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Sticher Radio, and now playing on iHeart Radio. You can also watch the archive podcasts on YouTube. Connect with Christine on Instagram, LinkedIn, and Facebook, including her newest Facebook group, The Great Mother Calling. Do share with family, friends, colleagues. Join us next time for another edition of HeartSpeak.